Hi, I'm Jeff. This is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north. Now, back in April, I made a video called How to Grow Bougainvillea in a Cold Climate. And during that video, throughout that video, I talked about the problems I've been having with my Bougainvillea. It's actually a Bougainvillea Brasiliensis. And we looked at the root system, we looked at the leaves, we tried to kind of figure out what was going wrong with it and why the leaves had all turned a very kind of wilted look to them, and it started to drop the leaves. And we put forward a theory as to why that might be happening. So this is part 2, and this is what happened as a result. So let's dive in. And we're in. Okay, so before I show you an update of this Bougainvillea, let's just very quickly go through what the situation was in April. So it's June now, it's about June the, it's exactly June the 12th, so it's precisely 2 months since I released that video. It was in April. So the previous situation with it was that the plant was actually about 6 feet long. I'd had it since summer 2019, and it had put on 5 feet of growth for me. Only one solitary bloom, but during those months I had a few problems with it. It did show signs of growing quite strongly, and then it lost its vigour, leaves began to drop, and I thought that the problem was overwatering, or that the fact that it was sitting in water in the tray. I actually had it down here on the floor, just there next to the door in one of those trays. So what I did was I lifted it up. Now don't forget the temperatures were quite warm there because it was over summer. I lifted it up on some crocks, and that seemed to solve the problem. So that was the first thing, and we got it to about 6 feet growing up the trellis inside the greenhouse. So as winter progressed, and I didn't water it very much obviously because it was over winter, the leaves started to turn again and started to drop off. It looked like they were wilted, and I was thinking, well, I'm not watering it very much here, what's going on? Usually by the time it comes to April, the temperatures are rising a little bit over in the UK, and I keep this side of the greenhouse at 12 degrees Celsius anyway. That should be enough to get it moving, but it was having the opposite effect, and it was really showing some signs of distress. So during the last video we had a look at the root ball, we had a look at where it was, and the theory was, well, some of the theories that we put forward was that firstly it was on the floor. So having it on the floor in a cold space it's certainly, I know for a fact that even though I've tried to keep this side of the greenhouse at 12 degrees Celsius, I know for a fact that, of course, it stands to reason, it's obvious, isn't it? If you're going to have it near the door, on the floor, then it's likely to be less than 12 degrees Celsius. I've got several thermometers throughout the greenhouse, and I know that is a fact. Now, Bougainvillea will go down to 2 degrees Celsius. It won't grow at that, so that shouldn't have killed it, but that was just one of the several factors. So, what other factors did we think were a problem? Well, they like to be root bound, and when I took it out of its pot, it did have a good root system, so that wasn't the problem. I had already lifted it from the tray, so we know it wasn't sitting in water. I thought maybe there was vine weevil in it. Well, when I looked inside, the root ball was fine. There didn't appear to be a vine weevil. However, I gave it a vine weevil treatment just to make sure, but it certainly wasn't the fact that it had no roots that it was dropping the leaves. There was something else going on. So what I did was I repotted it into a clay pot, a terracotta clay pot. Now I had read somewhere, again, it wasn't nothing scientific here, but people had said that terracotta seemed to work better for them, possibly because it leaches away the water, or drains away the water better than a plastic pot did. So I repotted it into a John Ennis number 2. I raised it up so that it was on the bench that you can see, so it's about 3 feet higher now, so that puts it into a warmer place. Even if it's only a degree or two, that can make the difference. I gave it the vine weevil treatment, and then I bought a little gadget which I will just turn around here and show you. So this is a water meter, and I did talk about this in one of my other videos very cheap, under £10, and doesn't need any kind of power. It just works. There's no batteries in it or anything. It just tells you whether inside the pot it's going to be moist or dry or very, very wet. So still thinking watering could be the problem here. So let's have a look at what's happened in those 2 months since. So I'll just turn you round, and hopefully by now I'll have showed you on screen what the plant looked like by the time I'd finished pruning it down from its 6 foot of vine. Ta-da! Okay, so, well, quite a difference you can see. So we now have a very healthy looking plant. It's in its terracotta pot, it's raised up off the floor. I've got some drainage underneath. I've got some feeding granules on top there, and we've got several leads coming up here for it to begin to do its vining and climbing. A couple of leads there, there's another one coming off there, another one there, another one there, another one there. This is, as far as I'm concerned, a success. So anybody wanting to know how to grow a bougainvillea in a cold climate, if you've made it so far, hopefully this will sort you out. Now here's the key. It's all about watering, and I'm hoping at some point this year we're going to get some blooms on this and it really does start to take off more. This is 2 months growth, and it does get very, very vigorous at some point. Now whether this particular variety, this hybrid Brasiliensis, will or not, that remains to be seen. It did last year, you know, it put the 6 feet on last year. So what have I learned? Well, the key for me, and this is anybody who grows plants in a temperate climate or in the UK, this is not going to be obvious to you. It certainly wasn't to me, and I've been growing plants many years. If you look at the pot there, the soil on top, the media, now that looks very, very dry, doesn't it? And even when you dig down a little bit, it still looks very dry. Anybody who grows plants in pots in the UK would think that needs a water, let's get it watered. Okay, however, when I get my, sorry for the shaking here, when I get my water meter out, my moisture meter, and stick it down, you can see that it's just on the cusp of being moist. Now it's not completely dry. I'll move it a bit further, it goes to the dry bit. Let's just take it out again. It's always worth trying it in different places. Now there it says moist. Okay, that's a little bit closer to the main central stem of the plant. Okay, now obviously you don't really want to be sticking this thing in constantly, because every time you stick it in you're likely to damage the roots. So what I've learned is this. First of all, wait until it looks like it's dry on top, like that. Okay, leave it a few days. Yes, a few days. And then with your moisture meter, stick your moisture meter in, see what it looks like. If it's still showing moist, you take it out and then you leave it just as it is now for another week, a full week. Now this is way beyond what anybody growing in the UK, certainly the north of the UK, would ever do. I would never do that with a temperate plant. If I saw a pot that looks like that, usually that would mean that it's absolutely desperate for a water already. You know, I've left it too late and it's very close to completely wilting and collapsing. So that to me is quite a big lesson. Even though I kind of knew I was overwatering it, I didn't realise to what extent. And this plant just does not like to be watered. It likes to be left to totally dry out, and then to be left a bit longer still. And then when you water it, make sure you give it a really good water so that it's completely draining through on the bottom, and then you go through the process again. Now, if you think about where it grows, now I don't think it comes from, and I might have said this in the last video and I've forgotten where it actually originates from. I'm not sure if it's not South America, but there's certainly a lot of them growing in the Mediterranean. And I've never seen people going out watering them. You know, they thrive on neglect, really. They grow up the sides of houses. and they scramble over arches and arbours and up the walls. They certainly don't get looked after, yet they put on an amazing show. So the lesson for me there is, so we've sorted the terracotta pot, root bound, in as warm a place as possible, as sunny but diffused light as possible, and the watering is absolutely key. You want good drainage at the bottom, but you do definitely want to make sure that you are not overwatering it, and you leave it, once it's dry, leave it dry for at least a week until you even think about watering. And if you do want to get one of these moisture meters, well, that's another little weapon in your armoury to see whether it's moist. If this moisture meter shows that there's any moisture in there at all, keep off the watering and wait a bit longer still, even when it says it's dry. Now, that's the Bougainvillea Brasiliensis, and I'm pretty sure I've got the exact same problem with, and if I just turn you up here, the hibiscus. Again, another plant that grows really well in the Mediterranean. And what have I done again? Well, I think I've done the exact same thing, even though I've got it up on some drainage there. I think I'm overwatering it again. Now, I've not tested this today. There you go. Now I think that's still saying moist. I know it's kind of dropping a little bit there, and it has been like this for a while. Now look at that. But yet, look at the surface. The surface looks like it's desperate for a drink. Now, I've only just kind of realised this again. I've fallen into the exact same trap again, and when I've seen the surface dry, I've watered it, and leaf after leaf's fallen off, even though I've got some buds on there. I should really cut those off, but I'm not going to, because I want to remind myself why I bought it in the first place. I'm going to wait and see now. I'm going to leave that. I'll try it again in another 2 or 3 days with the moisture meter to see whether that tells me it's completely dry, and then I'll wait again another couple of days, and then I will water it, and let's see if it starts to grow some leaves. I've got that one single leaf. I might let one of these flower, and I might cut the other 2 off and see if it starts to recover. So I think lesson learned, hopefully. And I will very much look forward to showing you part 3 of this video, whereas this bougainvillea will be up over here on that trellis that was put up over 12 months for it, and it's not managed to make much use of yet, and it will be in full bloom with those beautiful bracts, showing me why I think I paid £25 for this particular one. So I hope you found that useful, and if you're growing bougainvillea in the UK or in a cold climate, learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to make them yourself. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it, thumbs down if you didn't, don't mind which. Please stick your thoughts and comments into the comments section. I love reading about other people's experiences, and for now I shall see you on the next one. Bye.